In this video, we're going to look at tenses. Now, tense is a feature of a verb that shows time of an action or completeness of an action. There are three tenses: past tense, present tense, and future tense, right? Now, the verb, right, there are three forms to it again. You have the present tense, the past tense, and the past participle. So, these action words, they have four forms to it. Tenses have four forms to it: the simple form, the continuous form, the perfect form, and the perfect continuous form. Let's look at this through some examples. Now, the simple form is where the action is in its simplest form. I eat, I go, I sleep, I talk, I walk. Continuous form, denoted by the ing, I am sleeping, I am eating, I am talking, you are listening, right? And then you have the perfect tense. Well, this denotes where action started sometime in the past and it is continuing up till now. I have eaten, I have spoken, right? You have listened. And then you have the perfect continuous form where it takes up both the perfect tense and the continuous tense, right? So I have been eating, I have been talking, you have been listening. Okay, now let's apply this learning and learn to identify errors pertaining to tenses through some example sentences.
Let's look at our first example. The first example we have here is: the government is still in the process of finalized new policy guidelines for the allocation of land to private sector organizations. So, sentence divided into four parts. We need to identify which part has the error, right? So, let's look at it part by part. The government is still in the process, so which means I have my hint word right there, which is what? Do you notice the hint word? Still, right? Which means the action is in progress. It is continuing. And then if I look at the second line, process of finalized new policy, I have a past tense verb here ending in ed, right? Which is contradicting the action that is happening in progress, which is established by the hint word still. So what I need to do is, I need to look at the context as a whole and then look at words that are contradicting the tense in that sentence, right? So the government is still in the process of, how do I change this past tense to give me a continuous tense when where the action is still in progress, right? Right here. Second part, where I go ahead and change this finalized to ing. So let's do that. So we made the change and the error is in part 2. So we changed finalized to finalizing. So now it makes sense. The government is still in the process of finalizing new policy guidelines for the allocation of land to private sector organizations. So did you notice how the clue words and the hint words in the context helped you decide the tense in that sentence? Let's look at our second example. The cascading effect of economic slowdown has brought a much unnerving gloom to the real estate industry last year, but the industry is looking up this year. So again, we have a sentence divided into four parts. Now let's understand if there are any hint words or clue words. Now, what is the general tense in this sentence? The cascading effect of economic slowdown has brought a much unnerving gloom. Now, has brought, again, it gives me the perfect tense because I have an action that started sometime in the past and it is continuing up till now. I have the past participle verb here of bring, brought, okay, to the real estate industry last year. And I have a time reference here, another clue word, very crucial clue word I would say, last year, right? Which means the action must have been completed, right? We're talking about last year where it's not relevant right now. But the industry is looking up this year. So I have a very clear contradiction between what happened last year and this year. So can I go back and make necessary changes to my action word, which is has brought, right? Complementing that the action is completed or has been completed last year. So the cascading effect of the economic slowdown, can I just use the simple past tense? Of course I can. So all I need to do is go ahead and rid the sentence of has brought, which brings in the perfect tense, and just use a simple past tense rather, right? So the cascading effect of economic slowdown brought a much unnerving gloom. So the error is in part 2, for example 2. Okay, so your change has brought to, just simply brought, relating to the clue word last year. Let's look at one more example to understand how tenses, we could identify errors pertaining to tenses. Third example, he is decide to build a luxury hotel for the convenience of tourists visiting the ancient monument. Okay, so this is the other variation or pattern that we're looking at, right, where a couple of words are highlighted and in bold, and then we have some options. So we'll have to see if the given options has to be or has to substitute the highlighted phrase. He is decide to is the highlighted phrase. Okay, and let's look at our options. I have having decide to, he has decided to, his decision to, and deciding to. Okay, so which is going to replace he is decide to is what we have to look at. Now let's understand this context. What's the general tense in the sentence? Is it the simple tense? Is it a continuous tense? Is it a perfect tense? Or is it a perfect continuous tense? He is decide to build a luxury hotel for the convenience of tourists visiting the ancient monument. So a decision seems like has been made, which means the action of him deciding has started sometime in the past, but it is continuing up till now because he's reporting that someone is reporting about this person's decision to build a luxury hotel. So what tense do we need here? We need a perfect tense, but what is the tense that is here? Present tense, is decide, right? So how do I change that to a perfect tense, bringing in the meaning? Is it he having decide to build a luxury hotel? If I have to use having decide to the first option, I need to make some change right here, which is add a D after E. But that is not there. That is not my option. Let's move on to our second option. He has decided to. Yes, this seems like the right form for a perfect tense, right? He has decided. I have the past participle form of decide, right? And he has singular subject, so singular verb, he has decided, which means the decision has started sometime in the past and it is continuing up till now. Fits the form that we need in terms of the context. But let's look at our option 3, his decision to build a luxury hotel for the convenience of tourists visiting the ancient monument led to what, right? So when I say his decision to do this, and then I need a consequence, led to what, resulted in what. I don't have any sentence mentioning that or giving me a reason, right? So option 3 is out. Deciding to build a luxury hotel, again, deciding to build a luxury hotel for the convenience of tourists visiting the ancient monument, what happened, right? So it's incomplete for option 3 and 4, and our only option that fits the blank here is option 2. So let's go ahead and make that change. So option 2, we're going to make that change here. So he has decided to build a luxury hotel for the convenience of tourists visiting the ancient monument. So we've selected option 2, which is the right fit here in this context.
Now, having gone through the example sentences, we've learned to identify errors pertaining to tenses, and it's also equally important for us to know the usage of these different forms and when to apply them in a context. So that's all we have for tenses. Let's move to our next component in finding errors.